Tonight's Open Your Eyes People broadcast. I'm your host, evangelist Anita Rivera. All right, so I have another report to share with you all, and this one is titled the following: Israel-Palestine Conflict. Will World War III break out amid bombings and rocket strikes? All right, so the report says the following, and then listen, after I share with you this report, I want to get into what the Bible has to say about Gaza. What is the significance of Gaza in the scriptures? Okay, so stay with me. It's going to be a very informative and much needed broadcast. All right, so apparently, it says here, Israel is now launching ground attacks on Gaza as the death toll for the ongoing violence hits at least 198, according to recent sources. Israel undertook heavy bombardment of Gaza in response to more rocket attacks from the Hamas-run enclave. The country claims there have been no ground assaults in Gaza despite dispatching ground troops. Fears of incursion have prompted Palestinian civilians to flee to the border. According to the latest reports, at least 190 people have died since the violence escalated last Monday. But again, the question remains by many. They're saying, will World War III break out in this region? How serious can this get? Anyway, the deadly conflict in Israel intensified further on Monday with rocket warning sirens sounding across many southern Israeli cities. Explosions rocked Gaza for 10 minutes on Monday morning, lasting longer and targeting a wider area than the air raid that killed 42 Palestinians just a day before. The Israeli Air Force said during the latest round of bombings that 9 residences of high-ranking commanders of Hamas had been targeted. The majority of fatalities have thus far been reported in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that there will be no immediate end to the violence. He told the nation the ongoing attacks will continue at full force and would take time to remedy. He said his country wants to level a heavy price on the Hamas militant group, which has also been launching rockets towards civilian areas in Israel. A total of 198 Palestinians again have been killed, including 58 children and 34 women, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. In Israel, 8 people have been killed, including a 5-year-old boy and a soldier. At least 198 Palestinians have reportedly died since exchanges began on Monday. And this also, it also says that there have been 1,230 injuries, according to Gaza's health ministry. However, Israel officials claim that this figure is actually much higher. Israel authorities claim 8 Israelis have been killed, including 2 children and 1 soldier. I don't mean to repeat myself. Please forgive me. It just has repeat here for some reason. Now, the deadliest day of the recent conflict came on Thursday, May 13th, the final day of Eid al-Fitr, which is the event which marks the end of Ramadan. Almost half of the deaths confirmed since the violence began happened on that Thursday and over the weekend. A week after the first day of hostilities, there are no signs of abating. Israel fired artillery and mounted more airstrikes against Palestinian militants in the Gaza Strip, while Hamas forces continue to fire rockets at Jerusalem and Tel Aviv in retaliation for Israeli police clashes with Palestinians at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in East Jerusalem. And I just got done with the broadcast with regards to East Jerusalem and how the Abrahamic Accords has not really passed the test, if you will, with regards to the current conflict that is expanding and being a major concern over in the Middle East. And so here you have Israel's president having warned the country into descending into a senseless civil war amid a growing wave of street violence. Reuven Rivlin issued a desperate appeal to please, and I quote, "Please stop the madness." He said, continuing onward with a quote, "We are endangered by rockets that are being launched at our citizens and streets, and we are busying ourselves with a senseless civil war among ourselves," unquote. So you have emotional comments coming as dramatic images and footages continue to be shared from scenes in the nation of Israel. And so again, you have British Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying that he is deeply concerned by the growing violence and warned both sides to step back from the brink. However, so far, there's no sign of peace on the horizon. Mr. Netanyahu has said Hamas and other militant groups will pay a heavy price for firing rocket barrages into Israel, and the operation will continue for as long as necessary to restore quiet. Also, Egyptian officials have been speaking with both sides as having officials from the United Nations. So, the question is, again, will World War III break out amid bombing and rocket strikes? We hope it doesn't. There's always a possibility that it could. I just shared with you all a report, I believe, about a week ago, approximately, and it was giving you updates on all of the current conflicts that are happening around the world that can really usher in World War III. I titled it Wars and Rumors of Wars, A Sign of the End Times 2021 on my YouTube channel. And so I want to encourage you to visit my channel to learn more, because World War III could break out not just in the Middle East concerning the current conflict with Israel and Gaza and Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, but also with regards to what's happening in Russia, with what's going on with China and Taiwan. And Australia now being part of that. What the current civil war is happening over in Syria. They've been kind of quiet lately, but we're going to hear some news on that, I'm sure, before we know it. But let's get into what the Bible has to say. I really want to know what the significance of Gaza is in the scriptures. And so here it says Gaza, also called Azah, A-Z-Z-A-H, is first mentioned in the book of Genesis as one of the border cities of Canaan. Genesis chapter 10, verse 15 and 19 records this. The city was on the border of Israel and Egypt in the southwest part of Israel near the Mediterranean Sea. Gaza is one of the oldest cities in history, and the name Gaza means strong, which is a fitting name considering the city's strongholds and fortifications for protection. Gaza was a city associated with the Philistines. Originally, the Avites lived in Gaza, but the Caphtorites displaced them and settled them in the city according to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 2, verse 23. Well, the Philistines were most likely identical or even related to the Caphtorites, who came from Crete. And the ancient Philistines had traveled to Canaan from a coastal region, according to Jeremiah chapter 47, verse 4. So it's quite possible that they originally also came from Crete. Now, in the time of Joshua, the Israelites conquered the land from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and from the whole region of Goshen to Gibeon, according to Joshua chapter 10, verse 41. And then you had the tribe of Judah inherited Gaza, and they were able to keep the city for a short time before it fell back into the hands of the Philistines, as recorded in Judges chapter 1, verse 18. And by the time of Samson's judgeship, the Philistines were living in and controlling Gaza, as recorded in Judges chapter 16, verse 1. When Samson visited Gaza, the people there planned to kill him, but he escaped and carried off the city gates, as recorded in Judges chapter 16, verse 1 through 3. And then Delilah, right? Many of us know the report, know the history of what happened between Samson and Delilah. After Delilah tricked Samson into divulging the secret of his own strength, which happened to be the length of his hair that God had ordained and anointed for him to be a strong man, the Philistines captured him and took him to a prison in Gaza, as stated in Judges chapter 16, verse 21. And later Samson regained his strength from the Lord and pushed down the pillars of Dagon's temple, destroying the edifice and killing many Philistines in the process, as reported, as it states in Judges chapter 16, verse 23 through 30. Now from there, the Philistines continued to control Gaza during the time of Samuel. You can read 1 Samuel chapter 6, verse 17. You had King Hezekiah winning great victories over the Philistines as far as Gaza and its territory, but did not conquer Gaza itself, as stated in 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 8. So Gaza, we know, was a city associated with the Philistines. It means strong, but it's also, probably didn't know this, Gaza was also a city associated with judgment. Quite interesting, especially in light of the times that we're living in. Jeremiah, Amos, Zephaniah, and Zechariah all prophesied judgment on Gaza before the sin of the Philistines. For instance, Amos chapter 1, verse 6 through 7 records God's judgment on Gaza with the following statement. For 3 transgressions of Gaza, and for 4, I will not revoke the punishment, because they carried into exile a whole people to deliver them up to Edom. So I will send a fire upon the wall of Gaza, and it shall devour her strongholds, unquote. Now, likewise, you have the book of Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, Zephaniah, and Zechariah, all prophesying of Gaza's destruction. We can read that in Jeremiah, chapter 25, verse 17 through 20, Zephaniah, chapter 2, verse 4, Zechariah, chapter 9, verse 5. You also had King Sargon of Assyria conquered Gaza and probably destroyed it in the year 720 BC. And then later, Alexander the Great destroyed the city again in the year 332 BC after a lengthy battle. Now you also had during the Maccabean period, Jonathan subjugated Gaza to the nation of Israel. So, again, some facts, many probably did not know. Gaza was a city associated with the Philistines. They were first mentioned in the book of Genesis. It was a city associated with judgment. But another thing that many probably did not realize and even have forgotten, in the midst of this war, this conflict that is happening between the nation of Israel and the Palestinian Authority, and Gaza just being smack dab in the middle with a lot of casualties, a lot of heat being placed on them. Gaza, come on friends, we got to remember this, church. Gaza was a city associated with the spreading of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I know many people are calling for war, and they're saying, man, let's devastate Gaza and let's annihilate those people. I think we have some attention that has been received from the witnesses. Don't we have a cloud of witnesses? And they're seeing all this, and they're looking at the church saying, okay, this is what we have placed our hopes on. Because, if you all remember, the New Testament mentions Gaza once. And sometimes once is all it takes for us to get our attention, to know that God's willing to leave the 99 to get the one. So here it says, an angel told Philip the evangelist to go south to the road, the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. Acts chapter 8, verse 26. On the road to Gaza, Philip shared the gospel with an Ethiopian eunuch and subsequently baptized him in the book of Acts chapter 8, verse 26 through 39. A city once filled with the hostility toward the Lord served as a marking point for an Ethiopian to hear of and trust in the grace of God. The Bible associates Gaza mainly with the Philistines. God had given the city to Judah, but the Israelites had failed to obey God in driving out the former occupants of Canaan. You can read that in the book of Numbers, chapter 33, verse 51 through 53. And because of that disobedience, the Philistines in the city of Gaza remained a thorn in Israel's side for centuries. You can read that in Judges chapter 2, verse 3. But again, in light of the times that we're living in, we're going to hear of wars and rumors of wars. We don't want war to happen. We definitely don't want World War III to break out because of all this happening between Israel and Palestine over in the Middle East, that conflict. But we know World War III will happen, and it has actually several names in the times that we're living in. It's called the Sixth Trumpet War. It's called the Psalm chapter 8. What's it called? The Psalm chapter 83 War, the Arab and Israeli War. It's also has a name of what is it called? The War of Gog of Magog, according to Ezekiel chapter 38. Has another name under Isaiah chapter 17 verse 1, and even Jeremiah chapter 49 verse 23 to 27's got themselves included in that. So World War III in the times we're living in could really come out in several ways. We don't want it to, because that would mean the time of the end. And some may say, come on, evangelist, how can you say that it can mean the time of the end when we've had already a World War I and a World War II? Well, friend, I don't know if you know this, but the Bible has much to say about threes. Things coming in threes. And when it comes to war, that's a type of judgment, just as we read pertaining to Gaza. Again, Gaza was a city associated with judgment. And you think of the set of three, the number of three in a set, you immediately, in light of the times that we're living in the last days. I want to make sure I say this clearly. We're living in the last days. We're living in the end times. The day of the Lord is at hand. Then you have to know, as we rightly divide the word of truth, we look at the book of Revelation and we now see a set of judgments in threes. 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls. That's 3 sets of judgments. So you talk about World War III and say, well, that may not be that would be the end. Actually, it would be. And that would be now, we're talking about in the day and age that we're living in. Technology, where it's at. Constant reports of armies wanting to they're not trying to be, they are already at a level of being technologically advanced, having super soldiers, soldiers that are now endowed with artificial intelligence. To me, I still see it as a demotion when it comes to the humanity of who we are, mankind, but many people don't. And they say, well, we have to be one with machine. And they're making transhumanistic type of super soldier robots. And they're making actual robots, transformers, if you will, to be part of their armies and to make this World War III something that we have not seen since the beginning of the age, since the beginning of the world. And Jesus himself even said, if I can quote the words of Jesus, and I can, in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 24, when he talks about the Great Tribulation in the end times, which will surmount to this World War III. You can read it in the book of Revelation, talking about the Sixth Trumpet War, I believe found in chapter 9. But here in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 24, Jesus himself says the following. He says in verse 21, "For then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be." Well, why? Because of the type of warfare that will take place. I mean, we're talking about what's happening in the here and now in the natural. How far out, how outrageous militaries have become. And many of it is right now is done in secret. Okay, many of it is done under the surveillance of the current governments of the world. Some of them have shared secrets. Many of them have not. They say, well, you know this, and yeah, we've allowed our soldiers to train with you over in air bases in the U.S. and vice versa, over in Afghanistan and Pakistan and in various parts of the Middle East and over in the continent of Asia. But don't think we've shared with you all of our secrets, because we know that things are going to come to a light here. You know, things are going to come to a showdown. And when it does, we're gonna come out with artillery, with weaponry, with soldiers, with things that you have not, that mankind has not seen. And this is going to be so. And now you're talking about a diabolical state of warfare, and that's where you talk about now spiritual warfare. This is going to come from the natural and from the spiritual spectrum. And now you're talking about the days of Noah, the end times. Again, I go back to the portion of scripture where Jesus is stated here in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 24, verse 36, "But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be." And now because you've gotten into the type of diabolical warfare that you have opened yourself up to, talking about the world's militaries of many nations, many leaders that are going to be involved in this World War III scenario, you've gotten the attention of none other than the evil one, who is Satan. I mean, look, think of Russia. Russia has named, actual missiles by the name of the enemy, by the name of the devil, okay? There's one, for instance, that is called Russia. It says here Satan 2. They've called a missile by the name of Satan 2, and they have tested this missile. It's a long-range missile, and it's a megaton. And so I believe this missile approximately is 50 megatons. And so there's no way you're going to name a missile after me and not get my attention. But this is, again, we're talking about the devil. So now you're getting into a type of, again, the tribulation that Jesus himself said, you have garnered the attention of heaven, earth, and under the earth. Okay. And this is going to be tribulation that has not been seen again since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And you have players now wanting to be part of this, and people are not ready. And you need to be ready. You need to give your life to Jesus. Now, there's no way you're going to be able to be ready for this type of warfare. You're going to need God. And many people say, well, I'll just be God. Well, good luck with that. It's not going to work out, because you're talking about, again, you've gotten the attention of gods here. You've gotten the attention of the God of this world, who is Satan. You've gotten the attention of the Almighty One. And of course, you've gotten the attention of those who believe that they are God via a belief system and a worship of the Illuminati, of some what's called Luciferianism. And the devil has no problem deceiving and people into believing that you can become your own God with your own strength, with your own superpower. And so these are the times that we're living in. So again, the question, will World War III break out amid bombing and rocket strikes, is definitely leading up to it. Now, what manner of persons ought you to be knowing all this? What camp are you going to fall into? A lot of things are being offered. A lot of so-called things have been cooked up to play to your senses, to make you have an appetite as to what you're going to devour, so that you can become one with. Folks, please don't look at this and do what John did in the book of Revelation. If I could quote you the scripture, and I got to end the broadcast here, but don't do what John did here in Revelation chapter 17, when he had marveled at the woman on the beast. Because it says here in Revelation chapter 17, it talks about the scarlet woman and the scarlet beast, mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and of the abominations of the earth. And it says here in verse 7, but the angel said to me, why did you marvel? Why are you looking at this thing so like it just took your breath away? That was close. That was close to a worship. And so the angel says, I will tell you the mystery of the woman and the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. He says, don't marvel after her, because the kings of the earth are going to marvel after her. All whose names are not written in the Lamb's book of life are going to marvel after her and follow her. That's what it says here in verse 8. It says, the beast that you saw was and is not, and will ascend out of the bottomless pit and go to perdition. And those who dwell on the earth will marvel, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they see the beast that was and is not, and yet is. That's big. A lot of players are going to be involved in this. You don't need to be. It's not a game that any of us really need to be a part of, that we don't want to be a part of. So you could just, say no, like I grew up with these drug commercials, just say no. Same spirit of witchcraft, spirit of rebellion, spirit of pharmakia, just say no. You say, no, I'm bowing out of this. Some may say thank you, but no thank you. I already said no, and that's it. And so the Lord will remove you. And so you're not part of this, because, it's going to be a time, again, of great terribleness. And somebody say, okay, good, God will remove me. That means it'll be raptured. Not necessarily. God says that you will be able to persevere, and you will be kept from the hour of trial. The word kept means that you're going to be able to stand in the evil day, having done all to stand. It does not mean a literal removal as much as it is meaning being kept. It will be like that you will be like a mountain, if you will. You will be as Mount Zion, which is established forever, never to be removed. You're going to be like a tree. I think palm trees are actually really good, right? In that under the weight of storms, under the terrible tempest of storms, they bend back and forth, but they are still there after everything is said and done. So you will be kept during the time of great trial, which will come upon the whole earth. And Jesus says, behold, I'm coming quickly. Hold fast what you have, that no one may take your crown. The day of the Lord is at hand. God bless you, my friends. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to today's Open Your Eyes People broadcast. As always, it is a privilege and a pleasure to bring to you all the Word of God, breaking world news headlines, matching Bible prophecy. I want to invite you to visit my website, learn more about me and my ministry at www.openyoureyespeople.com, www.openyoureyespeople.com. While you're there, I want to invite you to show your love towards the work that's done here with a donation. Your donations really help make the work of this end time ministry possible. And God said the following. He said, through his son Jesus, he said, what the Father sees in secret, he will reward you openly. So, don't let your right hand know what your left hand is doing, and be a cheerful giver. And God himself will reward you openly, because he loves to show you off, and he loves you very much. So thank you in advance for your generous love and your support and your financial donations. God richly bless you. Until the next broadcast, be in peace and prosper, even as your soul prospers. Bye-bye.